in the midst of a lot of anxiety, of a lot of opposition, of a lot of contention. And there were a lot of people who came against him. As a matter of fact, because of the Emancipation Proclamation, he was assassinated. Okay, because there were people who felt that slavery was ordained by God. You see? And so he passed the proclamation, the Emancipation Proclamation. Fast forward, as we talk about today, the topic I'm supposed to talk about is inequality in the 21st century in America. But basically what I want to talk about is one issue that has gained a lot of popularity all over the United States. It's the rate of incarceration today in the United States. And this is something that affects you, that affects every black person, that affects every Hispanic person, but also affects every poor white person in the United States. So basically, just to give you a little background, a little statistics, the United States has 5% of the world's population, but the United States has 25% of the world's incarcerated population. Think about that. 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's incarcerated population. Right now, as we speak in the United States, there are 7.5 million people under some form of correctional supervision in the United States. And of the 7.5 million, over 60 to 70% of them are Hispanics and blacks. Right now, behind bars in the United States, you have 2.5 million people behind bars in the United States. And when you think about that, more than again 60 to 70% of that 2.5 million behind bars right now in the United States are Hispanics, are blacks, exceptionally, and then poor whites. So think about it. In America today, when we talk about inequality, mass incarceration has become a racial thing. Okay? It has become a hugely racial issue. But not only that, it has become a major economic tool. Okay? So think about it. At the end of 2010, two of the major prison industries in the United States, GEO and CEA, made close to $3 billion. $3 billion. So mass incarceration is an economic venture. It's a business. So fast forward, let's talk about the local issue in Massachusetts today. Let me give you some of the statistics with respect to the amount of people behind bars in Massachusetts. At this particular time, as we speak, Massachusetts has about 25,000 people behind bars, in both state prison and county prisons. Okay? 25,000 people. Of that particular amount, Hispanics are 9.6 to 9.7% of the total population of Massachusetts, but are 28% of those behind bars. Hispanics. Blacks are 6.6% of those in Massachusetts, but are close to 30% of those behind bars. So, if you put Hispanics and blacks together, they make up close to 61% of those behind bars. That is an issue that should concern you. That's an issue that you should think about, right? Right?
Yes.
Okay. In light of that, Massachusetts spends $47,000 annually on one inmate, but spends $10,000 for one K-12 child. You talk about misplaced priority. So, with that background, think about it. With that background, there is a law or there are bills right now in Massachusetts. And this is the reason why I came to talk with you, to get your support, for you to begin to talk about this. Right now, there are bills in Massachusetts in the conference committee called the Three Strikes Habitual Offender Bill. The Three Strikes Bill. It passed in the Senate, it passed in the House, it's now with a group called the Conference Committee. And the Conference Committee are thinking about these bills. Now, at the back there's a piece of paper, there's a paper like this, okay? That talks about what the Three Strikes Bill is. What it will do, and I'll just read some of this, so you can take the paper and look at it. What will it do? It will increase parole eligibility from 15 to 25 years. Will increase life without parole. Think about it. Majority of those that are on parole, majority of those that are behind bars are Hispanics and blacks. But it will make it more difficult for people to be paroled. Right now, people are experiencing difficulty in being paroled. So it's 15 years. But what these bills would do, if it passes and become law, okay, it will increase the possibility for your child, your husband, your daughter, behind bars, to be paroled to 25 years. Think about it. Will increase the class of individual considered habitual offenders in Massachusetts. So take for instance in California, okay? California has a three strikes law. A three strikes law. In California right now, a person can be sentenced to 25 years if they have 2 prior offenses. They can be sentenced to 25 years just for stealing a golf ball. Think about it. A man was sentenced to 25 years just for stealing a golf ball. A golf ball. Another man was sentenced to 25 years because he had 2 prior offenses just for stealing tapes, videotapes. Videotapes worth $250. He was sentenced to 25 years. Think about it. So, it will limit the discretion of judges to judge each case based on its own merit. So, take for instance, your son or your daughter commits a crime, okay? But what the judge would just do is, if it's the 3rd crime of this person, the judge would just sentence you to 25 years. Instead of the judge looking at the case on its own individual merits. Instead of the judge taking the case on its own, the judge will say, okay, if it is your 3rd offense, bam, we'll give you 25 years. Is that right? Are you listening? Is that right? So, these are some of the things. Will legislate a maximum penalty for several offenses without considering other important factors in the sentencing process. Will impose mandatory post-release supervision. Let me tell you about mandatory post-release supervision. Mandatory post-release supervision is this: that if your son or if your daughter or if you come out of prison, okay, you come out of prison, you've wrapped up your sentences, you paid for the time that you were sentenced behind bars already. If this law passes, it says that you will be under mandatory post-release supervision. That is, for 2 years, you are going to be under some kind of supervision, and you will be paying $85 every month. You've already wrapped up your sentence. You've already paid for your crime. But yet you're still going to have mandatory post-release supervision imposed upon you. Think about it. You have Corey. You've heard about Corey, right? This person has Corey. It's difficult for them to get a job. It's difficult for them to get housing. It's difficult for them to get some benefits or loan. They have Corey. Secondly, they may be on parole, and they will have to pay, or probation, they will have to pay their probation fee, but they don't have a job. And so fourthly, you impose mandatory post-release supervision on them. They have to pay $85 every month.